Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg.
I'm Joel.
Y'all know Teddy. The main event, the star attraction, everything. Anyway, we're here to wrap up the month of April in terms of reading. I had a very up and down month. How was yours?
Mine was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much good. I think I read everything I started, and I liked most of it.
I did not read everything that I started, and I think that ate up a lot of my time this month because I spent a lot of time trying to decide, do I want to continue this book? Am I going to give up? And then giving up. And so that happened to me twice. And so I actually only finished 4 books this month.
But I give you permission on one of them.
You did give me permission on one of them. So, because we'll get to it. But anyway, so, I think we're about to lose Teddy because he's going to sleep. I think he actually wants to jump.
Yeah.
Because we just took him for a walk and he's not tired. He's like running around like, why are you sitting down? This is ridiculous. So, he does not look comfortable. You can't see him, but he does not look comfortable. So I'm going to let him.
Yeah, it's kind of later than when we normally do this. So
Yeah.
he feels we should be downstairs watching TV.
Yeah, because also when we go downstairs for TV, he gets a treat. So say bye-bye, Teddy.
Bye.
Say bye-bye to the people. Okay. Okay, so it's just you and me now.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So, do you want to go first, or do you want to go, because you have 5 books. I have 4, but I'm going to lump my DNFs together, so
Okay,
that makes
cool.
us
5 and
match
5.
5 and 5.
All right, I will start.
Do it.
So I apologize. I do not know who told me this, but somebody had recommended that I do Criminal Intentions. So I did, and it's funny, the books are called Season 1, Episode 1. And
Is this the podcast one?
no, it's a book.
Oh, okay, never mind.
It's a book.
No, I thought it was about a podcast.
No.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. Never mind. I'm going to let you talk.
And Criminal Intentions 1.01, and it's called Cardigans by Cole McCade.
I love Cardigans.
I know.
Yeah.
We're going to get some Cardigans, too.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
So it's these 2 detectives are partnered up together, and they're both gay, and they are following up some murders of gay kids. So they're both really invested in this. And it's an older series, but I kind of really enjoyed it. It was a good going into a little murder mystery. And I think it's going to turn into a little romance. I'm not sure. I get that feel. Yeah. But right now, it's a good start, and I like it.
He's back.
Yes. So it was a good one. I am going to probably do episode 1, or season 1, episode 2, when we get back.
So at what point do you jump to season 2? I know you don't know the answer to that, but it's...
Actually, I kind of do know that answer, because I can look on...
Story graph.
Oh, they actually go into season 3.
Oh.
So, yeah, they have quite a few. Episode 1, I think, goes into 10. Season 1, I think, has 10.
Wow, there are a lot.
7 episodes.
Okay.
So, I don't know why it's done that way, but it's kind of fun.
Hey,
it's
why
different.
Not?
It's different.
Yeah. Hey, all for different. Now Teddy's just sitting sad at the entrance to the room. So let's try to be quick about this.
Yeah.
Anything else about
that
one?
Good.
All right, so let's talk about my DNFs. The first one, let's talk about the one I don't have. It's Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. I wanted to read that before the announcement of the Pulitzer, which will be next week, if you're watching this when it posts. But I wasn't feeling thrilled about it. I really liked the first chapter. And then as I got further into it, I had, if you saw my Friday reads, you know this, but there's an alternate history, kind of dystopia-ish element to it. And it is right there in the description. And somehow I just hadn't paid attention to it. So then they introduced that. And I had a lot of quibbles with the way it was introduced and the kind of world building. And I just was not feeling the book at all anymore. So for like the next week, I didn't really want to pick it up. And finally, I just said, I need to put this down. So, what were you going to say?
No, you typically don't like those kind of books.
No.
Dystopian and alternate universe stuff. It's just, it's I even say it's not realistic, but half the stuff I do read is not realistic.
And the real world isn't very realistic anymore.
But if it's a dystopian universe where three gay couples get along and they're all from Australia and they live in Montana, that's okay.
That's okay. Or two gay detectives get assigned to work together.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. It's stuff that I might end up liking, but I need to choose it, and I didn't choose it. So I ended up putting it down. And if it does end up winning the Pulitzer, I suppose I'll have to pick it up and try again. But this time I'll know. I'll know.
Maybe if we try the audio, maybe that'd be a little different. Then you can kind of get lost in it.
Well, there are like footnotes, and there are images in the text of the book, so I would feel like I might be missing something. The other one was The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about because somebody finished it. We're going to leave it on his pile. And what is your next book?
My next book...
I just put my book on top of your list. I'm sorry.
My next book is Sipsworth by Simon Van Bowie.
I guess.
Sipsworth is really a super cute book. It's a older lady who she's lost her husband, so she lives alone. It's in the UK. And she sees this old aquarium, so she brings it into the house. Well, it has a mouse in it. And so she keeps trying to figure out how to get rid of the mouse, but nobody does. So I don't want to go into any spoilers, but she falls in love with this mouse. She doesn't admit to it, but she does. And the whole time she's trying to get rid of the mouse, which she doesn't want to, she meets interesting people who are lovely and kind and beautiful. And it's a really good, heartfelt little story. And it's just really beautiful. Chelsea from Montana Book Company recommended it to me. And she loves it.
She did love it.
Yeah,
and she's not the type to usually like wholesome.
No.
Not all the time. She usually likes a little bit dark, twisted literary, which is one of the things we love about her. But she really responded to that book.
I think because of kind of the world we're living in today is you don't see this much kindness.
Yeah.
And this book is pure kindness. And I loved it.
And everybody needs a spot of joy.
Yeah. And oh my God, they described this mouse and it's so cute.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like little fluffy whiskers.
Yeah. What do you have?
So next... we're actually getting into the books that I read, and the first one that I read was All the Right Notes by Dominic Lim. I felt like I needed to kickstart my reading at the beginning of April. I don't remember why, but I think I was just having a little trouble. I was still, all through 2024 so far, I've had a little trouble getting running, and then I'll get running, and then I'll immediately, like, crash. The world's on fire. So I thought if I started with a little bit cinnamon bun, something kind of fun, romantic, maybe a little sweet. And this was cute. I liked it. I didn't love it. The premise is that you have two guys who knew each other in high school. Now, one of them is working in New York City. He had wanted to be like a big composer, make his own music, maybe his own Broadway show, probably his own Broadway show, because that's the direction his talent seems to go. But for whatever reason, he has not been engaging with his talent at all. And then you get flashbacks to the two of them in high school. The other guy, by the way, is now a big-time movie star. And his father, the father of the musician, is retiring. So he had been the music teacher at their high school and is the one who kind of pushed them together when they were in high school. And he wants his son to get the big famous actor to come and perform at his retirement concert. So, of course, they get thrown together and every other chapter is a flashback to them in high school. I think this is a debut, and I think in some ways you can tell, which is one thing I said a lot about Arthur and Teddy are coming out. Yeah. It's a really cute book, but you can sort of tell it's a debut. But I think Arthur, what's his name? Ryan Love. That's his name. Love. Yeah. Ryan Love's next book will be really great. I would say Ryan Love had a bit of a better start than Dominic Lim, but still could head in that direction. So it was cute. I feel like I am damning this with faint praise, but it was a cute book.
Yeah, you enjoyed it when you were reading it.
It was. I did get a little annoyed because it does tease things repeatedly. Like it will say, "Oh, I don't want to talk to him because of what happened," but it doesn't want to tell you what happens. And then almost the entire book, it's teasing you this big fight and why they haven't spoken and why he's not doing music. And I don't like being teased. So that did get a little annoying.
He doesn't.
I don't. So, yeah, that was me and All the Right Notes. what do you have next?
Well, my next was, I think it may be your next too.
Okay.
Here We Go Again.
That is my next.
By Allison Cochran.
Yay.
I love Allison Cochran. She does a Charm Offensive.
Yes.
And it was really good. And then her next one was Kiss Her Once for Me, which
Lesbian Christmas.
Lesbian
romance.
Christmas. Loved
What more
it.
do you need?
Yeah. And then Here We Go Again. Is different than her other two, but still really good. There's a very sad undertone to it, and I did cry quite hard at some parts of it.
Yeah. You saw. I cried.
Beautiful book, though.
Yeah, it is.
I really enjoyed it.
We were actually just saying that we don't actually own any Allison Cochran books, and we need to fix that.
Yeah, we need to get her little collection.
We thought of this after Independent Bookstore Day, though. But that actually works because then we can go to Ireland, and when we get back, and we know how much money we spent on the trip because I'm buying sweaters.
Lots and lots of sweaters.
Did I mention I like cardigans? Yeah. So then we could fix that because I would love to have her books on the shelf. They're really good, and I think what she does so well is she really writes great characters who connect with each other very strongly. We were actually just talking about that with Abby at Montana Book Company on Independent Bookstore Day. Yeah. That was because I said I think Here We Go Again might be my favorite Allison Cochran, and Abby said, "Well, I don't know how you would even tell." Because they are all different. Yeah. And I said, well, you're right. I mean, I really do love the connection between the two protagonists in The Charm Offensive.
I would say that Here We Go Again is probably my favorite because of the subject matter. It's basically two people who knew each other back in high school.
Yeah.
And their high school teacher is...
My books were twinning.
Her high school teacher's dying and what needs to go back east, and so he has them drive her and her friend drive them across country. Yeah, it's a beautiful story of how they kind of reconnected, why they fell apart in the first place, and two opposite people, and really how they come together and understand each other too.
Yes,
and
say goodbye, because I mean that from the very beginning that their teacher is dying and that he wants to go back east to die. So that element is in the book as well, and it's really a beautiful book also about loving someone and being there for them at the end, which is triggering if you have ever cared for a loved one who has been ill or anything like that. It can be very triggering.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of, I thought about Wanda a lot, my grandmother. Wanda was a teacher, and when she passed away at 98, like all her students remembered her and came to her funeral, and years and years later, just the impact she had on them. Yeah. That was the impact that this teacher had on the two characters in the book. And it's what the teacher meant to him and what the students meant to the teacher. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful book.
It is.
It is a little hard.
Yeah.
Wrenchy,
get ready to cry. You have
it's a good read.
Have a box of tissues ready to go.
It's a really good read. I highly recommend it.
And it's very good relationships. Like I already said, it's a great dynamic between the two protagonists, but there's a really great dynamic between them and the teacher and other people that they meet along the way who factor in big ways and small ways. I know. We're getting emotional already.
And there's a puppy dog.
And there's a puppy dog.
And he's adorable.
His name is Odysseus, but they call him Odie.
I love Odie.
And he's really cute. And again, really great dynamics between the dog and them. Yeah. So it's just, she's really good at chemistry and connections, and it's funny. Like, it's sad. We've talked about how sad it is, but it's also really like laugh out loud funny.
Very funny.
And for those who care, there is one steamy scene, I would say, if that's not your thing.
But it was a little steamy scene, but I thought it was beautifully written.
It was
absolutely beautifully written. And you got to read the book to get it, but the way it was portrayed in the book and then the way it was written and told, it's really a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
So
we're big fans. Yeah. I don't know if you can tell.
Go get it.
All three, really. Yeah. Because every single one I have kind of thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this. Well, not every single one. That's not fair. The Charm Offensive I did because it's set within the world of like a Bachelor-esque TV show. Yeah. And I loved it. Kiss Her Once for me, actually, I didn't have any qualms. I knew I was going to like it. It's a lesbian Christmas romance. Set in they meet Portland. in a bookstore. They meet in Powell's
Books.
Yeah, so it's like I knew I was going to love that one, and I did. I had a little hesitations about the road trip and the dying teacher in this one, but it's beautiful.
When I started it, I was like, am I going to really like this? And I loved it.
Yeah,
so.
it was. It's going to be high up there in my favorite books of the year.
Mine too.
By the end. So
what do you have?
Well, that was my next one. So do you want me to go do another one, or do you want to jump into your next one?
I will jump into my next one. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain.
He read it, so I don't have to.
So I read it to preface my next book, James. And I wanted to know the story of Huckleberry Finn because I'd never read it. And I know of the time it was written, I can't ever say it was ever appropriate, but it was more common back then. I just couldn't get through some of the language used in the book, and I'm not a prude, but if you know the book, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't getting into it. Huck is not a good kid.
Yeah.
He's a horrible person.
You had the same problem. You read Tom Sawyer last year, and you also really couldn't, you were mad at Tom Sawyer.
I was mad at Tom Sawyer, and I told myself I'm not reading Huck Finn, but I felt I needed to read it before James.
Yeah.
And I got through the book, and it's like, really, I don't think there's anything in here you're going to miss. Mm-hmm. So I told Greg the highlights is this is what happens. And when I get into my next book, I will tell you why you do not need to read this.
Yeah, so he gave me permission, and I was already
struggling. And I give you permission.
Yes, everyone has been blessed. Yeah, so I was really struggling. I was not. We started it right about the same time, and I just was not making progress because I don't like a book about a troublemaker still, especially when I was a kid, but even now. So, and yet I married a troublemaker. Not really.
Really?
Anyway, let's move on.
What's your next book?
What was my next book? My next book was Restless Dolly Maunder by Kate Grenville. I had requested this from the library because my library actually had a copy when the long list for the Women's Prize was announced. I will have my reaction to the short list down below because Restless Dolly Maunder made the short list. And I can kind of see why, because if you watch the shortlist reaction, I read a little bit about what they say they're looking for and what they found. And one of the things that they describe is that could specifically be about Restless Dolly Maunder, or women in history finding their way. So it has that element of clearly what they're looking for to celebrate for the Women's Prize. But I really just thought it was a fine book. I didn't dislike. Actually, no, that's not true. As more and more as it went on, I was getting irritated by it because it really felt like Kate Grenville was spoon feeding you everything and constantly reminding you, she wants to be a business person, but she can't because she's a woman and society won't allow it. And it's I know, Kate, you could have just had her lose the business opportunity and I would have known. So the more that happened along the way, I just kept getting annoyed. So it's back at the library, and I will be shocked if it wins the Women's Prize because I haven't read any of the other books from the long list because there are other ones that I was interested in. That just happened to be one that the library had, and I just got on the wait list. But I have to believe you could easily swap out something else from the long list, and it would be a stronger short list. So that's my bitter take on Restless Dolly Maunder and the Women's Prize. What do you have next?
Well, it's no surprise. My next one is James by Percival Everett. That's why I read Huck Finn, because the story of James is told from the view of Jim from Huck Finn.
Yeah.
And I think Percival Everett took some creative
liberties,
and it didn't seem to go exactly tandem with. Because from what I read and some things that happened here, it's where did that come from? Maybe I missed it, but I loved this book though. Yeah. It was really good. I love what Mr. Everett took Jim and made him into James, and what James was going through while he was with Huck Finn. Actually, I love the ending more than what I was expecting the ending was going to be. And fantastic book. The writing was really good, and I just appreciated how he developed James. So you're currently reading this now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll spoil my May reading plans.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please, let's do it, because we're already talking about it. So I started this yesterday, and I listened to one chapter of it yesterday, and I've listened to, I think, 2 more chapters today, and I'm really liking it. I can easily get into this book, whereas I really could not get off the ground with Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
And part of it is that I got far enough into Huckleberry Finn that there's a scene where Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer meet up, and they go to Huckleberry's aunt's house, and Jim is on the porch, and they're hiding in the bushes, and they're like, he doesn't even know we're here. And they feel really smart and superior. And of course it becomes like a racist caricature of him being kind of scared and speaking in vernacular and saying, I don't know who's out there. And I'm not doing the voice or the like way he speaks, but this book opens with James on a porch, slightly annoyed, but knowing he can't do anything about it, because he's like, those 2 idiot kids are in the bushes. They're watching me. I'm going to have to play along. And it's so clever, because it just immediately he starts getting it. And then the second chapter really expands on this, the sense of like code switching. Like, this is actually a very smart man who knows what white people expect of him and is sort of playing along to get along. And it's really interesting.
And that's a theme throughout the book.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's really clever. James is a very smart man, and he just knows how to play the game.
Yeah, and there's a scene early on, this is the second chapter. He's talking to his children and sort of teaching them how to talk in front of white people.
Wasn't that adorable?
It's adorable, but it's also heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking,
so,
but it's just like trying to teach them how to not go get trouble.
Like if you see that a white person's house is on fire, what do you do? And the first kid says like, fire, fire. He's like, no. You have to point it. You have to let the white person point out that it's a fire. Right. So that's all I'll say about it. But and it's chapter 2 again, so I don't think it's a spoiler. But fascinating, and I think I'm going to really like it.
Yeah.
So
I think you will.
Yeah.
I look forward to when you finish talking more about it.
Yeah.
I can't say a whole lot with him, so.
I'd see, usually Joel ends up reading something first because he powers through things a little bit better than I do sometimes, or just the way things, like a lot of the time you read Matt Cain books before me. This year I read a Matt Cain book before you. Me. You have usually read the Alison Cochran books before me, and this time I read here, and I basically like pushed it onto you when I finished. It was like, you are reading this next. No. I don't care what else is going on. So it was nice to get a taste of my own medicine, I guess. So.
It's really nice to not be hanging for 6 months when he tries to finish The Grapes of Wrath.
That did happen. And stuff happened. But anyway.
So that was my month. I finished off with James and I loved it.
Yeah. And I finished with Clear by Karis Davies because you were traveling last week, right. And basically what I had sort of said is I had decided that I was going to dump Huck Finn. I was finishing Restless Dolly Maunder, and I basically decided, like, once I finished those, I was either going to do James in print or on audio, and you were listening to the audio. Right. So what I decided to do is Clear by Karis Davies is 3 hours, and I mentioned this in my Friday reads, but I don't like to go fast through audiobooks. All respect to anyone who can speed them up and still has listening comprehension or reading comprehension, but I can't go fast. And
I think you lose a lot of inflection of the word.
Yeah, pacing sometimes. Yeah, I like to have that.
I can go like 1.2,
yeah,
but I cannot go above that.
Because a lot of the time I find that if you leave it at 1.0, the narrator talks so slowly that it doesn't sound natural. So I feel like 1.2 usually normalizes. Natural. But I listened to Clear at 1.1, which made it a 2-hour audiobook, and it was perfect for me. So 2 hours of your time, well worth it. It's really beautiful writing. It's really beautiful characterization. There's a great connection that forms between the two protagonists, all three really, because there's a man and his wife, and then another guy who's been living on an island. Basically, it's set in Scotland during a time when people were being forced off of their land by landlords. They were trying to evict people off of their land so they could bring in their own, I can't remember if it was cows or sheep, but basically they want to use the land for their own pasture purposes so they'll make more money maximize their profit from their land rather than allowing people to live there and manage their own lives. So you have this man who's been living alone on an island in northern Scotland, and John Ferguson is a preacher who agrees to go evict him for a spot of cash for him and his wife, who are newly married. And he goes and he immediately gets injured on the island and has to get nursed back to health by the man that he is supposed to evict. So this really interesting dynamic happens because you have a little bit of the wife's story back home. And it reminded me of Claire Keegan. Mm-hmm. And then I just wasn't too sure about the ending. And I'm really glad we managed to talk to Essie at Montana Book Company. She's a big literary fiction person at Montana Book Company. And she and I usually are interested in a lot of the same books. They tend to have this. She was all in on The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, and I was not about to jump on that train. So there are differences, but
that's one of the few you disagreed on.
It is
very, very
yes,
few.
It's very few. So I got her to read The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, and she loved it. Like, yeah. So anyway. She had read it, and we were talking about how great it was. She got Claire Keegan vibes off of it as well. And I said, I just really didn't think it earned that ending. And her exact response was what?
Oh,
she said,
right.
That ending was ridiculous. Yeah. So, and I don't want to oversell, because I feel like I'm going to scare people off. Yeah. It didn't make me mad. It just felt like the book needed more of a runway to where it ends. And I won't say what happened, but yeah. So
I did start it. I'm not going to say I DNF'ed it. I had a really long work week, and I was listening to it on the road home, and I was pure exhausted.
Yeah.
And by chapter 3, it's like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. But it is beautifully written. I am going to pick it up again.
Yeah. And you were driving home in a storm as well.
Yes.
Like, we've had wild weather.
It snowed
in Montana
again this morning.
Yeah, I'm all bundled up. I don't know how you're in a t-shirt, but
I do have one more book. I forgot.
Oh?
Chapter 4 of Inland Island by Josephine Johnson, April.
I'm so excited.
I know.
You did read it?
I finished April, and it was really good. So it's written in chapters by the month. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading one chapter a month.
Yeah.
So when I read
would
April,
not have the patience.
Well,
somebody commented and
somebody
they did the same thing.
that they did that, and I did it because I'm reading what is happening in my world, in her world.
Yeah.
And it's just like the birds are just starting to come out.
Yeah. Which is happening here.
It is happening.
And then they're getting mad about the snow.
So I'm reading a chapter a month, and I read April. It's really a beautiful one.
I love that book.
Yeah, it's very
and
nice.
That, when I read it last year, I said I had never read a book and immediately felt like I needed to go out into nature, and that book did that to me.
Does, yeah.
So I think we're going to get Teddy back for the end. He's back.
Hey.
He had been sleeping behind us. I don't know if you heard.
You probably hear the snoring.
Yeah. Oh. So now we're filming this on April 30th. So now tomorrow you could do May. You could.
Oh, I could.
You could.
I could.
You have the option. You don't have to.
I probably will before we leave.
Yeah. So talking about May reading plans, I am not going to have a lot of plans because if you're new here, because there are a lot of new people. If you're new, hi.
Hey.
Hi, this is Teddy. We are going to be leaving for Ireland and Scotland. So actually really good timing on Clear, by the way.
Yeah.
But we're going to be gone for most of the month. And I brought book ideas, and I started an audio when we were in Italy. Did you know we went to Italy? We did. And I just didn't read it or listen to it when we were traveling because, I read a lot on the plane and then not at all while we were traveling. And I am fully expecting to do that again. So
I'll probably finish Clear on the plane, and then I'll be done till we get home.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I think, and then we get home like right before the end of the month. So I don't really know how many books I'll manage to read in the month of May. Teddy wants down again. So bear with me a moment.
I think I may wrap up. It's going to be a short one too. So
probably, but we'll get to talk all about Ireland and Scotland, so it'll still be fun.
Yeah.
But so I am starting James. I'm like 3 chapters in right now. So I'm really going to be shocked if I'm not done with that by the time we leave.
Yeah.
So that's a May plan. I started Fire Exit by Morgan Talty, author of My Beloved Night of the Living Res. So I am 20 pages in so far, so I'm really not far. But I'm going to be working on this. I should be done before we go. If there's time, I will probably try to get to Blackouts by Justin Torres. I didn't bother grabbing the dust jacket off of my bookshelf because the book itself is kind of fun. So, I mean, those are like 3 books I feel pretty confident I could do before we leave. And then once we leave, I did have an idea for what I might want to listen to on the plane. We're going to be listening to an N.R. Walker book as we drive to Seattle to leave for Ireland. That's my May plans. I really don't want to get any further into it than that. And for some reason, I have completely blanked on what I had been thinking I might listen to on the plane.
I'll probably do Clear. I do want to get into Fire Exit because I did enjoy Night of the Living Res. But I currently am reading The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. Abby from Montana Book Company really enjoyed it. And I'm loving it. It's baseball themed and a little queer romance. And I'm actually really enjoying it.
Romance made me think of what it was.
What?
Just for the Summer, Abby Jimenez. Danny, who's that Bookish Bear on Instagram, read it and loved it. Just loved it. And then Doris from Aldi Books just read it and loved it. So I might look for an audio of that.
Is it on Scribd?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
I may do that with you, too.
Oh, that'd be
if
fun.
we're on the plane.
Yeah, as long as we can both do it together, that'd be fun to do on the plane. So anyway, that was my idea. But so you're going to probably you're doing the Prospects now.
Prospects now.
Do you have anything lined up? Because you're probably going to do the same thing I am. Not really do anything once we leave.
Just going to see, because we got a lot going on in the next 9 days. So.
Yeah. So anyway, that's April. That's a little bit of our May plans. We're just going to be, you found a great donut place in Edinburgh.
Oh my God.
Those are going to be our plans. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to stick with that.
I think we should go and just sit and have coffee and donuts and read a book.
We could.
That'd be
awesome.
awesome.
I am going to drag you to a bunch of bookstores. I know The Gutter in Dublin for sure.
That's my middle name.
He says that every single time I mention, and it never stops being funny somehow. So, Lighthouse Books in Edinburgh. Yeah. I have a whole list.
Yeah.
And I never remember the names of any of the other stores that are on the list, but we have a big list.
And we're going to go by Oscar Wilde's house.
Yes.
It will be closed the day we go, but we may just get a coffee and a donut. And
sit with Oscar's statue.
Go sit with Oscar.
Yeah.
We'll take a selfie with him.
So... so anyway, that's the plan for May. Little bit of reading, a lot of travel and experiences, and I think we're ready for downtime.
Yeah, I'm just going to absorb it all in and just enjoy it.
I'm hoping that, because I've had such a hard time getting reading going in May, that I'm really hoping that I'll feel energized when we get back. Yeah, can you hear Teddy running back to
June's going to be a good month for us.
Yes, so that's April. That's plans for May. We'd love to hear what you've been up to, reading, loving, all of that stuff in the comment section down below. As always, we really appreciate your time, and we have good things lined up for you while we're gone, by the way. We've been filming ahead, so I think they'll still have entertainment on the channel. So, as always, we really appreciate your time, and we will be back. Until then, happy reading.
Bye.